I usually talk a lot, so this timing thing's going to be hard for me. Okay. So my name's Claudia. In 2009, 4 years ago, I started an organization called Shark Truth. We worked with wedding couples to try to get them to go fin-free, remove shark fin from their menu. And we stopped 80,000 bowls, and we have expanded the model to Hong Kong. This is Andrew and Jenny, who are one of our favorite couples. During that time, I also started to think more about how food choices in general impact the planet. I grew up eating ta siu, which is barbecued pork with rice, but I wanted to buy products that were better labeled, so I knew where they came from and what was in them. So I started making things like organic lentil loaves and bringing them home to my very disappointed and angry Chinese mother. And she hated it, my family hated it, and to be honest, I kind of hated it too. I asked myself, why isn't there organic or happy meat versions of ta siu? Why do I have to choose between ta siu and organic lentil loaf? It felt like I had to choose between this false dichotomy of what was healthy organic white food or questionable Chinese food. Fast forward 2 years later, in 2011, my friend in Toronto was working on a shark fin ban, and she asked for my help. And since I was working on the wedding contest and I cared about sharks, I said, of course, I'm going to help you collect petition signatures. So I went on the Chinese radio, and my elders or elders in the community would call in and say that I was just some dumb banana that didn't care about my culture, which means that you're yellow on the outside and white on the inside. At first it sounds kind of funny, but it's actually a huge diss to young people that grew up here like myself, who struggle to hold on to our family's language and traditions. They would say that I'm making them look bad or making us look bad. Why not look at bluefin tuna or talk about overconsumption in general in Western societies? Why are we pointing fingers at us? On the other hand, I would go on English radio shows, and very nice older ladies would call in and say, oh, Claudia, I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing. You Chinese people just eat weird things and you should stop. So I felt that the conversation was getting really tilted, and I started to feel a little confused. What did I want to do with Shark Truth? Was bans really the best way? So I figured I should learn more maybe about where it came from. I grew up in Canada, but my parents are from Hong Kong, and my grandmother's from Guangzhou in China, in Guangdong province. So I asked my aunties in China to take me there, and I decided to take a break. This is actually a photo I took outside of the hotel where she used to busk at. My aunties told me that my grandmother actually lost her parents when she was really young, and so her and her little brother had nothing. She gathered cigarette butts outside this hotel room and sold them and re-rolled them and sold them for a little bit of money. So it made me realize how opposite the life that I had was different from my elders, how opposite it was from the story of my elders. But it wasn't different by chance, but it was different by design. The reason why I grew up in a comfortable upper middle class family was because my elders made that choice for us. They chose to come here in a place where they knew nobody, had nothing, and work hard to give us everything they didn't have because they wanted us to have that better quality of life. And I realized that it's for this same reason that I worked on Shark Truth. It wasn't necessarily about the sharks or the oceans, but it was about trying to prolong that legacy. And I couldn't stand the thought of me working hard for my kids, putting them through school, getting them a good job, but on a planet with no clean water. So after doing some reading while I was traveling, I also learned that the Chinese community hasn't had the rosiest history in Canada. And the wording and approach with the shark fin bans could have been a bit more sensitive, especially the word bans. It just, reminds me of how Chinese were banned in Canada from a long time ago. So, when I was in China, I was in these villages where there was nothing. There was, the water wasn't clean, the air was dirty, people were just struggling day to day. And it made me realize that we have so many problems in the world that we have to fight. And we have to do it in a way that we can build community so people can act on multiple issues instead of turning them away. How do we do our work in a way that brings people to the table? So I came home and I talked to Kevin, who's my colleague here sitting at that table, and we realized that we could win on shark fin bans, but we could lose an entire community along the way. And did we want to do that? This community has so much potential to do a lot, and ethnic Chinese population in Metro Vancouver is the largest ethnic group. It is also the largest ethnic group in Canada. That's not the whole community, that's just my family. How do we find those existing values to empower people through them instead of imposing the values that we have on others? How do we highlight the beautiful parts of our culture and use that for sustainability? So we started Hua Foundation, which is an expansion from Shark Truth, and we're starting on this the Choi project, which is an intercultural food literacy program. Some of the things that I'm really excited with this program is one of the things is a seasonal choy guide we're producing. So it lists all the Chinese choys that can be grown locally and seasonally, and trying to get young people back into buying foods like that. We're also doing a pilot labeling program with Chinatown grocers. A lot of times I go to Chinatown and I can't even read the Chinese cardboard signs, so we're helping them do bilingual labeling, also labeling things local, pesticide-free, etc. The other thing we're doing is that we're working with local farmers to create a pilot market box in the summertime for 2 months. So we're working with local farmers to get locally grown Chinese choys that are pesticide free. And we're going to see if that can spark some market solutions for our community. In November, we also started with the Choi Project Intergenerational Cooking Workshops. One of our friends' grandmother came to teach us the traditional food, wontons, and our job as youth was to source the ingredients as sustainably as possible. Because at the end of the day, it's not for us at Hua Foundation, it's not really about convincing Chinese people or anyone else for that matter to become environmental, but simply giving them the tools and the solutions so that they can make the right decisions by themselves. It's not just about translating letters or sentences or words, but translating in culture and in value, and framing the discussion in a way that makes people feel empowered to be part of change for the long run. Because it's not just about the sharks or the oceans or about food security, but it's about all that stuff, in addition to the environment as well as people. Thanks for having me.